For what
Sorry,
it's
go ahead.
worth, it's like blue-black. It's like you kind of both have dazes, except I mean, I feel like blue-black Reanimator maybe doesn't abuse the London Mulligan as abusively as black-red,
That's
but
true. Yeah.
just being able, especially with a couple new hate cards that we're getting out of the new set, I think having some counter magic to be able to catch things when you're not on the play might be the way to go.
So we were talking about this a bit earlier, changing the subject here, and Side Norna just asked a great question. Do you have any hype for the new set? Are there any cards that you have your eye on? I know you didn't run any tonight, but
Yeah, I didn't run anything tonight because I was going to run the Mirror Mage, Jace Mirror Mage, in some type of control shell.
yeah.
I do like that card. It's one of those things where that card would have been good pre 2019. It's like all the 3-mana walkers that we have now just steal so much of the spotlight that to be able to contend with them, you have to do something that is like prisony. Well, like when it comes to, let's say you land a turn 3 Jace and draw a card and it deals him no damage, right? Or it deals him some negligible amount of damage. Let's say it puts him down to 3, right? He zeros, he's at 4, he goes to 3. So you drew a 1-drop.
Yep.
A 3-mana walker that has 3 loyalty after drawing you a card is equivalent to a Narset, but Narset gave you selection and it also puts the prison effect on your opponent, right? So
Yeah.
at flat rate, it's like Narset is just superior in all ways to Mirror Mage at the earliest that you'd be able to play them in the game. So I don't know if there's really going to be a home for him. I mean, he was the card that I was most excited for. He would have been good had there not been such powerful 3-mana walkers printed in the last year and a half. But otherwise, I think the most powerful cards that we've seen so far have been the hate cards, really. The Spirit, I know the chat was talking about the Spirit a little bit earlier, but
Yeah. I
just
think
having
Leon was talking about. Yeah.
your 3-mana Vindicate, I mean, if we learned anything from Oko being able to blow up permanents, and then if it goes away, it's like you don't get that permanent back. You just have a 3/3 elk. It's similar with this one, right? ETB, exile a permanent, and then if you get rid of it, they just get a creature, a token. That's going to be way, way worse than whatever they played,
Yeah.
right? If you snag an Oko or if you snag like a Sylvan Library or something, like they're 2/2, who cares, right? If they dealt with yours, like you got rid of
That's so
the
true,
thing
yeah.
that mattered. Yeah, like so I think that card is going to be very, very good, particularly because of all of the shenanigans with like blink effects. Like I could see a world where the Ephemerate deck just gets a big boost from that card.
Oh
Because-
yeah, that's so true. Yeah, because go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, being able to play a creature, because it's also just a 2/2. Like, at the end of the day, the floor is that it's a body in your probably Aether Vial deck, right? So it can still carry equipment even if their board is empty. So it's not just dead the way, like, Council's Judgment would just be dead if they didn't have a target. Even though it doesn't target, you know what I mean? Like, it would just sit in your hand. Where at least this one is a body. At the fail rate, it's a Gray Ogre. So, but the fact that you get to do flickery things with it, whether you're flicker wisping it or ephemerating it, there's a bunch of ways to abuse ETB effects, and that's one of the more powerful ETBs we've got on a cheap creature in a really long time. So I think that's probably the most legacy playable card that they've spoiled so far. And then otherwise, the new that new red enchantment that is just good against
The Sulfuric Vortex looking.
the
thing.
Sulfuric Vortex card. Like trying to dome yourself is pretty cool, or dome your opponent. Like it makes me think of, it's essentially like the red Linvala in that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I see them probably the same space, except now if you're playing red as opposed to blue white, like it opens up a little bit more doors. I mean, nobody's going to do it, but I saw who was it? I forget who said it, but there was somebody in like a forum or it was maybe one of the chats where essentially they were like, oh, this is so sweet. I'm going to play this in my shadow deck and dome myself.
Oh, yeah. I didn't
It's
see
like-
that, but yeah.
Play this thing, play Mishra's Bauble, dome myself, cast this shadow. Cool, dude. I was surprised that that effect was symmetrical, but Confounding Conundrum, which is like turns your opponent's lands into bounce lands if they like fetch or whatever, so it slows them down.
Is that card playable in your mind?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
it's one of those things where, yes, it means that your opponent may not get to use their mana immediately, but you spent your 2 mana, and I get that it replaced itself, but you spent 2 mana to do that, which means that they can either respond with their fetch land, or they can just fetch on your turn, and then, or like sequence, so their fetches are just like out of sequence, which obviously is bad. But I don't know if it's worth a card in your deck. It would have been way more appealing to me as like I was saying. I'm surprised that one's not symmetrical, but the red one was, because I think there would be really cool deck building possibilities if you had a 2-mana enchantment that cantripped that then turned all of your lands into bounce lands. There's probably some cool trickery that could have been done there. But because of how it's set up, I just don't think it's going to see a eternal play. For anybody that's like looking to screw over people fetching, you're playing the what's the white enchantment that I lost to last week?
Oh, White Enchantment. Wait, who'd you play against?
I played when I lost to Soldier Stompy.
Oh,
Suppression Field. You play Suppression Field.
Yeah. I was thinking in the actual bracket. Yeah.
It's like if you're looking to hit on lands, you're just going to do that more. It's like I don't see a world where anybody is trying to play a Confounded Conundrum against like the Titan deck, right? At least not in Legacy. Maybe if it's popular enough in Modern or something, it's turning people's bounce lands into double bounce lands means that they just don't get mana or something. But it because it's the second land, it's when they hit their second land. I just don't see it. If it was really powerful, like if it actually was a powerful hate card, I don't think it would say cantrip on it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I do think though, and I don't know about Legacy, but I think in general the flip cards, including the flip lands, the rare pathways, are deceptively powerful. Like I think they're a lot better than they look. Again, maybe not for Legacy, maybe for Modern, Pioneer, whatnot. But some of them look kind of weak, like a worse regrowth with a tapped green land on the back or something like that.
Yep.
But they're actually pretty good because they have the flexibility of being either a card or a land. And
Yep.
I don't yet grasp how powerful that flexibility actually is. And that's what makes them really interesting. Like I'm really curious to see if any of those break in.
I don't think any of the ones that they've spoiled so far are going to be. I think if it was going to see play, those cards would have to be powerful enough on their face if they didn't have the land. Mm-hmm. Like it would just have to be genuinely a spell that you want to put in your deck.
Yeah.
Where
Maybe.
Right now, so far, all they've spoiled are cards that either aren't Legacy power level or are potentially Legacy playable cards at like a more expensive price point. So there was like a regrowth, but for 3 mana instead of 2. Right. And it's like nobody's ever playing the 3 mana regrowth because it's potentially a land over just the 2 mana regrowth, right? So, we're not even halfway through spoilers yet, but they did spoil a white mythic at the end of the day today. That's like a 7 mana spell that you're never going to get to be able to play in Legacy, but it showed that part of their design space is it comes into play untapped if you pay 3 life. So it's just a plains at the cost of 3 life if you need it to be. Yeah. Obviously, it can be wastelanded, but it means that they have put at the higher rarities potential ways that those lands come into play untapped. Now, that means that I'm more interested to see like a 7 mana card that pumps out 2 angels. Like, I don't really think you're going to be playing that. But if you're just playing a hard control deck, right? Yeah. And let's say like that's your one of to like end the game. That's your Entreat the Angels, if you will. Obviously, probably not as powerful as Entreat the Angels because it doesn't scale. But for all the times that I've drawn an Entreat the Angels and lost because it didn't do anything in my hand versus if it was just a land drop, that's a huge game changer, right? So I don't know if that one's going to be good enough, but it makes me think that there could be something else down the pipeline that they're going to do with their big finish that might just be, like 3 mana treasure cruise, also land, right? Like
yeah. That's possible, yeah. Or some kind of a land that has like a really good ability, but the spell part of it is garbage, Yeah,
they might also even do something where there's like they might have at the higher rarity. Like so far, they've only had lands be like the double face cards be a land, so it is a just taps for whatever color it does, right? Yeah. The only additional text we've seen so far is on that mythic that says if you pay 3, it comes into play untapped. It means that there might be a world where like I don't know, maybe like the blue mythic or something that turns into a land can like bounce itself back or something, right? So you can play it and it comes into play tap, and you can pay some amount of mana or some amount of other resource, and it returns to your hand so you can get the spell again, right? that's also a possibility in design space that we haven't seen them try out yet. So that's a possibility too.
Agreed.
I think the only cards that we'll see like that are definitely legacy playable that they spoiled so far are that White Spirit and that Red Enchantment.
I think so far I agree. I did not look over all the commons and uncommons yet because like a lot of the pictures are really low res, like someone leaked them or something, and I just can't look at those yet because it hurts my eyes. But
Yeah, the best thing that happened today was the Green Mythic Ashaya. Do you know
oh,
what
that's a
that
cool
one does?
card.
So
Yeah,
that one that turns it turns all your creatures into lands, right?
yeah,
So that means that it itself, when it comes in, is a land creature.
right.
So it's kind of awkward because, like, I mean, it's never going to see legacy play because it's a land creature. It can get wastelanded, which is kind of awkward.
Yeah, yeah.
Like your 5 mana spell gets wastelanded, but so it's never going to see legacy play. But whatever. But there was a fun Twitter thread that happened where I guess Tayback, the rules manager, was getting enough heat on like asking how does this work with Blood Moon, and so he
Yeah.
did a whole thread about how Ashaya works with Blood Moon. And he's like, we get into layer 4, we get into layer 7A, we get into like all these things where, and ultimately what happens is because Blood Moon turns off Ashaya's ability, which gives it its power and toughness off the number of lands that are in play, it loses that ability, which means that even though its creature types, when static-based effects are checked, so normally, if it's unimpeded, it's a legendary forest or legendary land, elemental forest,
Right.
or creature land. But with a Blood Moon, it's a legendary creature land, elemental mountain, and it loses the text that cares about its power and toughness, which means that it becomes a 0/0 and dies.
Okay, so
So
Blood Moon just kills him.
He
And then
did like this, yeah. He did this 8-thread long, or this 8-tweet long thread or whatever, just to get to so Ashaya dies, and it was awesome. Highly recommend.
It's probably for the best, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, highly recommend looking up Matt Tabak's Twitter just to read the entire thread to get to the point where he just goes, "So it dies." Like, he could have just been like, "Guys, it dies," but he was like, "Nope, let me tell you the whole rule book." But he's got like the 3 Thoughtseize on top of his counter magic suite, as opposed to any unmasks, right?
Yeah.
So
unmasks.
they're the only free spells in his deck that aren't counter magic are the 3 Lotus Petals. Like, it's very clear that this type of blue-black Reanimator list never really prioritized speed. It prioritized making sure that it went off.
Wait, was it maybe when Probe got banned?
I don't know, because like this deck, I don't think
Could be.
Reanimator playing Probe. I don't know. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
It might have been tough because Deathrite Shaman was in that format, so Reanimator wasn't as good. It might have also, maybe that was why. Maybe Deathrite Shaman was the reason why Black Red picked up. Because if every deck is going to go turn 1 Deathrite Shaman, then you're incentivized to
hurry up.
Like try and go under the Deathrite, right?
Yeah. Hurry,
so maybe that's it.
up.
Maybe Deathrite was the actual biggest influence.
Maybe. Right,
I love that.
Action.
Deathrite Shaman was in the format and they wanted to race it. Got to race this 1-drop.
It worked for a while.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it works to this day.
Yeah. Ponder, start the game for Kaplan. So to sum it all up, this is a little bit slower Reanimator deck that's a little bit more resilient. And also, well, another thing that could have affected is also Blue-Black Reanimator maybe for a while was faster than other combo decks in the format. But maybe a combo deck somehow, for reasons I can't remember, became faster, and Blue-Black Reanimator just became too slow.
I mean, I remember Blue-Black Reanimator was definitely like one of the major reasons why Mystical Tutor got banned. You just the same way that you can go the deck has the free win of like end step, Entomb, untap, Reanimate. You could go end step, Entomb, untap before in my upkeep, Mystical Tutor, draw, Reanimate.
Right. Sneak and Show also was hot around that time. That Black Red kind of took over the combo scene.
Give me 1 second. My battery's about to die.
Yeah, go for it. Rockman's here. Rockman's playing next round. Rockman, it's not even 10 o'clock, and you might be up. 10 o'clock in New York, anyway. So Roland fought off 2 combo decks, and now playing another one without Dazes in his deck.
One of the big differences too between um, blue-black Reanimator decks of old and what Kaplan is running is blue-black Reanimator decks back in the day. Gosh, it feels so weird to say that, but Reanimator decks back in the day, their sideboard would be to move over to Show and Tell to dodge Graveyard Hate.
Right. Yeah.
And he's just got an entire white sideboard to go with the man plan plus like hate cards.
Is that his own thing, or did they used to do that?
Go into the white spells?
Yeah.
I don't think blue black has been around recently enough for that to have like been quote updated, if you will.
I see. Yeah. Note to Fury. That makes sense.
All of the ones that I remember were always the Show and Tell pivot, but I like his version of like powerful white cards plus man plan.
I like it too. Do you think he? That brings me to my question. Do you think he sided in the white cards here?
I feel like his sideboard, based on what like Roland's sideboard is, I don't really see a reason for him to.
Okay.
Only because like, as we saw, at least against me, Roland has too much burn to be able to take out. And so it'd be real weird if like you brought in your mentors, but your opponent didn't have the option of boarding out like any number of their bolts, and it just gets clipped. It's like that's real awkward.
Ooh, Side Norton is asking if you have any love for the vampire, the new vampire Night Goyf.
I think the Night Goyf would have been real hot had it not been 3 toughness. I think
you need to get closer to your mic.
Oh, sorry. That's better. Having only 3 toughness, I think, is going to make it so it's just it'll see no play at least in Legacy. And if it is, it'll be cute and it'll feel good when it's good against like creature decks because it's a big beefy lifelinker. But for 3 mana, you can just be doing way more powerful things, and it doesn't really have any synergies with anything. It's dependent on what your opponent puts in their yard. Like, it's a lot of work for you just to get a flying Goyf. That's more expensive. And like, yes, lifelink is really good, but I mean, I don't know. The decks where you'd want a flying lifelinker against all have really cheap, efficient ways to remove it. So, no value on the way in or out. It's double black. It doesn't have any like natural synergies or homes where it wants to live. It's definitely sweet. It's super sweet for sure. Had it been like triple black and an X4, maybe we're interested in something.
Sure.
But it depending on what your opponent, it means like your opponent can just like, I don't know. There are some decks that just don't play to their graveyard. It's like, I don't know, you go up against the creature deck and the only thing that's in their yard really is what? A land? It's like if they Green Sun Zenith and then Green Sun Zenith shuffles back into their deck and you're like, oh man, I had this really sweet flying 1/3.
Careful study here for Cap. Are we going to see him throw away stuff, or is it too risky with surgical possible?
I think that Thoughtseize that Roland played without a threat is kind of translating that he wants to be able to keep the surgical that he's got in his hand. I feel like forcing that Thoughtseize kind of puts your hand face up, but at the same time, it's also one of those things where even if it is face up, your opponent can't really act on it, and he's under no pressure, so David doesn't have any incentive to move, Dave rather. Sorry. That's like the same thing that happened to me last round. It's like Roland had a full grip and he deployed no threats. And so now I just know his hand is flush with interaction, right?
Yeah.
So it turns your hand face up, but it also means that, well, if interaction by itself is going to be good enough, then you can't move anyway. So
this is true.
But it also it's like a fun do-si-do because it's like, okay, well, I can't move if I can't deal with the surgical, but also I'm under no incentive to move because I'm under no pressure. So I can just continue to develop.
Agreed. Oh, there's a Swift Spear. I mean, not Swift Spear. Sorry, Monk.
Monk?
Mentor.
So he does bring him in, which is an interesting way to go. So that pedal making a thing, but yeah, that's what I was talking about, right? Like if he just has the bolt and he doesn't move it, then it's like, well, your 3 mana make a 1/1 prowess is not going to hold up well in the face of a 3/3 that might come down.
Yeah.
It seems like the mentor is obviously very good. It just seems like it might not be good enough for this
Well, he does
matchup.
have ways to bring him back from the dead, so I
That
think it
is
could be
true.
pretty good. I think
That's
it could be
true.
pretty good.
I mean, if he uses a reanimation spell though, and we think that Roland's got the surgical, then it's just going to bait the surgical.
I'm sure if you're Kaplan, you're like, yeah, I'm fine with that.
That might be
You want to
good.
surgical my monk?
That's going to be good enough if Kaplan is happy to use a reanimation spell as a duress.
Yeah. What do you think of Jin Ataxius? Is this card even worth running right now?
Dude, I think that Jin-Gitaxias, I mean, it's that delicious debate of what would the world of Reanimator look like, or Fatties look like if Grizzlebrand was gone, because
Right.
Grizzlebrand is just so far and away better than everything else. But before Grizzlebrand, Jin-Gitaxias was the guy. He
Yeah.
was the Fatty.
Yep.
So Roland's firing this off proactively, it looks like.
It looks like it. Yeah. Targeting the monk, I guess.
I feel like it'd be weird to target anything else.
Yeah. There's no other creatures in the yard that I know of. I think it was just dazes and irrelevant stuff in the yard. Let's see if Kaplan interacts with that.
So he's going to let it go. He's holding a bunch of, what has he got here? He caught, that's pretty good. Clipping a second mentor in hand is good because that surgical is then also just a free Thoughtseize.
Yeah. What cards did he have in hand? Oh, so he had Reanimate, Swords, and Careful Study in hand. Pretty good surgical
Well,
then.
he had a second mentor that got clipped, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can see what he sideboarded. Oh no, he looked through the deck too fast.
It's all good. I feel like maybe mentor is also just more creature density, I guess. I don't know. It feels misplaced in this matchup because of all of the burn spells that Roland can't get out of his deck.
Well, if surgical hadn't happened just now, and a second mentor was in hand plus a reanimate, things could have got out of hand. No.
Yeah, but like that's like if mentor lives and you do stuff, it's good, right? But
Yeah.
the issue is like, is it ever going to live? And there's a world where it's like, you got that one off the pedal, but then it got bolted. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Entomb. So he
Entomb's a
drew
good one.
Entomb. Pretty good. He didn't discard a creature just now, did he?
I didn't see it if he did, but he's about to put, well, I assume Grizzlebrand in the yard anyway.
Yeah.
Also, he could put a Sphinx of the Steelwind. I mean, the thing is that dies to Pyroblast, so it's probably worse.
Oh, a second surgical on Gristlebrand now. I like it. All right, Gristlebrand is now exiled.
So now the question is, what is left? I assume he left in at least another fatty, right?
I
There's
think
probably...
I think Sphinx stays in at least.
Yeah, Sphinx is awkward because it dies to Pyroblast.
Yeah. Wait, no, it doesn't. It has Pro Red.
Oh, you're right. Size per red.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell I haven't played against that card in a long time. I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, it's blue. Get that out of here. Nope,
Yeah.
You're right. So Sphinx is probably still in the deck.
Sphinx, Jin Taxius probably comes out, right? That's the one that's weak.
Jin is weak, but it is like your backup Grizzlebrand if Grizzlebrand gets surgical, so I could see an argument for it.
I
think
guess.
the only thing that definitely, if a fatty came out, the one that 100% comes out is Tidespout Tyrant. But I could see Jin coming out as well.
Yeah, Type Tyrant not great here.
We were so that we needed some card to be able like I don't know. Jin has a lot of good potential deck names if there was a deck centered around it.
Yeah.
Like Gin and Juice is just so easy.
This is true. Is it spelled like gin, the liquor?
No, it's with a J instead of a G,
Oh,
but
so
it's
with a J.
it's good enough. So now we have a Terramander that's going to be a 5/5 and do some work closing this game if Caps draws are not kind to him. But another Reanimator, or another Entomb rather, is a good one.
It's a good start if he's going to turn this around. And that is Sphinx of the Steel Wind.
when in doubt, like when you're hellbent, the best thing you can draw is the card that puts your deck in your hands.
Yeah.
All right, reanimation spell.
If he has one. Okay, land pass. So this is one of those things that's like not really strategic, but people think about it. Do you play your land there with no cards in hand, or do you hold it?
I mean, the argument there is like he's got what is likely to be 2 draw steps. If it's me and I'm playing my Brainstorm deck, I'm not thinning. But if you're in a position where you just need to, draw your 1-outer to win, I could see the argument for it. I'm sure there's got to be somebody who's gone deep and done the math.
Does fetching make you dead to gut shot? I'm not sure. Wait, did they get the damage from the fetch? Let's see. I'm going to check in with them.
There's also no way that gut shot's still in the deck, is there?
7.
Did you lose a life for the fetch just now, Kaplan?
Yeah, I went from 13 to 12.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you guys missed that. Okay, cool. Wang Lu, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. What were you saying, Phil? Sorry.
I was saying that somebody should definitely... They're somewhere on the internet, the information superhighway.
Oh, yeah.
There's somebody has done the math on like when you're supposed to fetch to thin and when not to, and when it's like significant enough for you to care about it. Razaketh is the demon, or no, I'm sorry, Villas is the demon, where when you lose life you draw cards. Villas is.
Oh yeah, Villas, yeah.
Villas is probably the go-to for Reanimator if Grizzlebrand ever got the axe. Because
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say when you reanimate it, you still get to draw. You draw the cards that you lose off the reanimate.
Right.
So.
I know. I was gonna say I know Greg Berlinroot likes Villas. He runs it in his Tinfins list.
Yeah,
but that's a little different.
It's Grizzlebrand number 5.
Yeah.
But it would be like game. There are games that would be way more interesting against Reanimator if the fatty of choice was Villas instead of Grizzlebrand. Because Villas also doesn't have like the lifelink to just, a 7/7 lifelinker being good enough. You know what I mean?
Yep. A lightning bolt is on the stack. Orum's chant here. Is it being cast with kicker?
Orange chant's pretty good. No, you're good.
You got it.
Yeah, can't attack, can't cast spells. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. You're laughing at me? No, I am.
I have clothes on this side.
I don't know. When the best thing that you can be doing as a control deck is playing 4 Uro, 3 Oko, and 4 Astrolabe, it's like, all right. Because none of those cards have particularly interesting replayability, It's one of the reasons why I love that Zendikar has like a bunch of modal spells, because modal spells make games like the cards that offer multiple modes means that their applications are constantly varying from game to game.
Right, like Oko, you can make a food, you can turn something into an elk, or you could swap. You have those different modes. Yeah, exactly.
So many modes. Yeah, so many modes, right?
All right, we're in game 3. We're in game 3.
Yeah, no hate on Snoko, but I think it's just like it's not really what the format needs out of their control deck. Yeah. Oko is good in literally everything that plays mana.
Oko's good.
Turn 1 Ponder. Start off with the Ponder.
Speaking of Oko, I just had to take a bite of some food. All right. Turn 1 Ponder. So is Kaplan being on the play super relevant here like it is with Black-Red Reanimator, or is it a little less important?
I think it depends on how they decide to sequence their spells when they decide to go for it, because Roland has shown that he obviously favors having more defenses up than landing an early threat. So he'll keep hands that don't have a bunch of interaction but no clock. Whether correct or not, I'm not sure. I don't play nearly enough Delver to know. But if he does keep another flush hand of counter magic, or uses his cantrips to find counter magic, then this game is probably going to go a little long, and it's going to come down to fireworks. So,
yeah,
it really just means like who is the like. This is one of those games where who's the beatdown is going to vary a lot, and it's not going to be revealed until probably turn 2 or turn 3. If Roland doesn't put a threat down, he's probably just being like, okay, I'm the control deck, which isn't necessarily always the case in a matchup where you have fast threats plus backup and can apply the clock. Maybe Roland's more incentivized to just always be the control role in this type of matchup because he doesn't have Wasteland. It's possible.
Yeah. And chat's still discussing the Oko deck, the Snoko deck, because Wang Lu is trying to change their what was previously a modern Snoko deck into a legacy Snoko deck. I mean, it's a good deck. If you want to play some legacy and you want to win some games, definitely go with the Snoko deck.
Yeah, if you
do it.
If you are looking to get into legacy and the easiest way for you to do it is to just port yourself into a tier 1 deck, that's a really good place to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, if that deck in Modern was a deck that you enjoyed playing, you also got to realize, like, I have a little bit of a lukewarm to bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Snoko because, like, I long for the days of top miracles, right? So I am definitely a stained opinion.
Yeah. I know a lot of people love the snow decks. I'm one of them. I like the snow. I like my Snowlands. I have my Ice Age Snowlands I've had since I'm a kid. I like Astrolab because I can play my snow basics. And yeah, if you want to move right into Legacy with Uro and Oko, do it. Please do it.
Over under 70% chance Kaldheim is a snow set.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I think we're going to see more snow, and we're going to see some snow hate, some real snow hate.
I mean, the snow hate, for it to be legacy playable, is going to have to just be tacked on to an otherwise already playable card.
Yeah, I mean, there's a cumulative upkeep enchantment that's like back to basics for snow. Have you seen this card?
Yeah, so it's unplayable because the cumulative upkeep is like 2 mana, so it's like the second turn after it's in play, you have to pay 4 mana. It's just impossible to keep up with.
Yeah, but like if they made a card like that, but way, way better by removing cumulative upkeep.
Let's say there was a back to basics that only hit snow permanents, right?
Yeah.
So like snow permanents don't untap. For that to even like be playable against the fraction of the format that is Snowco, it would be cool if it was playable because that would mean that other decks that aren't playing basics aren't just incentivized to be playing snow basics themselves, even if they have no snow crossover. But it would need to be like 1 mana, and it would need to give you some other value in addition,
Yeah. Yeah, chat has all kinds of good advice here. I hope someone's writing this all down. It'll be in the VOD, obviously, but good to see more players joining Legacy. And whoever has the links, feel free to share them in the chat. There are a bunch of Paper Legacy Discords and other resources to jam some games, even on webcam. So,
yeah, in terms of like which, if you're trying to figure out which duels to get for Snoko, at the moment, I believe there is the version that doesn't run red, and then there's the version that doesn't run black.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you like you mean Bant Snoko? Yeah,
like there's some there are all 4 color versions, but some some will eschew red, so they'll get things like Dead of Winter, but they won't get Pyroblast. So like Dead of Winter, Plague Engineer, stuff like that. But then there are other versions that keep the red, eschew the black, because then you get Pyroblast, like those kinds of sideboard cards. So it depends on like where your meta is, but that's also going to influence which duels you get. So if you know which cards you prefer, I actually think the version that does have black is stronger just because Dead of Winter and Plague Engineer are just so much better against the decks that those cards are good against than hopefully your Pyroblast can pick off a combo deck, but it really depends on what you expect to play against, and who cares? I mean, you probably can get away with it anyway because you have Astrolabe.
Yeah, and I just shared in the chat, by the way, you'll have to scroll up a little bit at this point, but the MTG PO Facebook group, if you're not in it, you should join. Play paper games online. All the resources are there in that Facebook group, and also all the people that are streaming paper are in that Facebook group. So check that out. All right, chat now talking about buying duels. So
Yeah.
we're here like in turn 3, is it? I don't know if either of them is a land drop, but a bunch of cantrips so far, and I'm assuming Roland's looking for counter magic. And Kaplan's looking for either Cannon Magic or combo stuff. How do you feel about this game 3, even though Kaplan really hasn't made a move yet?
I don't imagine Kaplan makes a move until he draws a couple of discard spells. It's the same thing as before. Like without a clock on Roland's side, there's just no reason for Kaplan to move until either Roland taps out, taps low, or you get your information off of a discard spell.
Yeah.
But
also, you can run proxies when you play webcam games. Whoever was asking about duels, if you're holding off on buying duels before you play some games, just run some proxies and jam some games with people online. All right, Kaplan making some kind of move now.
I think most of the Snoko decks at least have universally adopted white because you're already kind of incentivized to be playing a Caracas anyway, because you get that value of protecting your Uro from opposing Source to Plowshares in low, where mana is the resource. You can do like the bounce your Uro trick with the sacrifice ability on the stack. So, and also Source to Plowshares is just good at shoring up opposing Uros, but then also what would otherwise be a soft matchup to Merit Ledge. So I think white has been just universally adopted because of those aspects, but it's infinitely customizable.
So it looks like an Entomb is on the stack now. This could be a key moment here. Key moment. It's getting a gut shot? What was that?
No,
gut
there's no
shot
way
and
Gut Shot
then
is still there.
fluster. Okay.
Whoa, Gut Shot stayed in the deck.
Yeah. I didn't even think that could be gut shot. So daze and response.
So he's dazing one of the two and then paying. So of those 3 spells, he's dazing one of the copies and paying for the other 2, so the Entomb is going to resolve. But this also means that if there was a window to fire off your Surgical, it's going to be before he untaps. And if there's a Force, then it will need to be met by a Force, and Pyroblast is off. But also, does Pyroblast even come in this matchup? I'm not sure.
I would bring it in. Sometimes
Just
the
for counter
difference
wars?
between winning and losing a matchup like this against a combo deck like Sneak and Show or a Blue-Black Reanimator is just Pyroblasting their Brainstorm. You know.
Yeah.
I've done the in game 2 against Sneak and Show. Let's say they turn 1 Ponder and I Pyroblast.
I mean, it's probably enough in that to be like, I mean, it's got to be better than Gut Shot, right? So he's definitely got to have him in his deck. I mean, it's interesting that Gut Shot into Flusterstorm was trying to be a Force of Will.
Yeah.
It's like discard this Gut Shot to get this Flusterstorm to work.
It's a decent plan. Some blast in similar to against Ant. Yeah, true. Also against Ad Nauseam, I brought in Pyroblast and just, their first turn they try to Ponder, I'll just counter it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's also Ponder and Brainstorm is really your only target outside of if you're playing against Tats, you get Echo the Eons.
Yep.
So it's like you're kind of incentivized to just be trading as much as possible.
Yep.
On anything that it can trade with because the deck is mostly black.
Yep. But making them live off the top and not sculpt their hand is pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's way better.
Oh, okay. Chat's talking about modern decks. Okay. I was like, what John deck?
Most of the powerful cards that have been printed in the last 2 years are the best across all formats. So there's probably a lot of modern power level crossover that would work. I mean, I played a Urza deck that had the Thopter Foundry combo in it, uh, and did like I was on camera in a 6-0 feature match at an SEG. You know, like the power level of modern cards in the last 2 years are equivalent to the power level in Legacy for the most part, and they're all playable. So there's a lot of options if you just have access to a modern collection.
Absolutely.
Grizzlebrand hits play, and I have to assume that means that this game is over.
Probably, unless there's a Brayson borrower.
Yeah, barring some kind of like absolutely wild shenanigans. So he's just
I'm hoping
passing
for petty theft.
Yeah, Kaplan didn't even pay any life to draw any cards here. He's just like a 7/7 lifelinker is going to be good enough. But if he attacks and then goes for the block, then it opens up the possibility that a bolt plus a block can trade. But it's a tall order with 4 cards going and potential to go up even higher. And also that doesn't seem like a winning line because then Kaplan gains 7 life.
Yeah. It doesn't look like he has a petty theft. Otherwise, you would have went for it already, right? You just slam that.
I don't know. I think there's argument that you might be interested in waiting until like 7 life is paid and try and fight over that way. I mean, going upstairs is a reasonable way to check Grizzlebrand from being able to.
All right, he's attacking for 4 now.
Yeah, so I guess he bolted or he chain lightning to the Grizzlebrand.
Okay.
So the Grizzlebrand will, if he blocks, will trade, which is interesting because if I'm Kaplan, I think you're incentivized to take this trade. Like, if you want to play conservative, you can take this trade, just go out to 15. Your opponent's down to 3 cards, no threat, and you're at a like really beefy life total. And your Grizzlebrand is back in your yard for any reanimation follow-up. So it might actually be correct to just trade here, gain the 7, and then you're back to normal. But that also means that your Exhume gives them a Stormwing entity, so I'm not sure. There's a little bit of play here.
Agreed. Well, someone's thinking about something now. I guess Kaplan's thinking about blocking. 4 cards in hand for Kaplan. If he has another reanimation spell, he takes the trade, right?
If he has
Not
another
blocking
reanimation
seems
spell,
really
he takes the
risky.
trade.
I think you trade no matter what here if you're Kaplan, based on what we know.
Yeah, I mean, if Roland's hand is, I mean, he just took it. So if Roland's hand is just burn spell, it'll be good enough. Otherwise, he's going to have to like play like Terramander and then like bolt the Terramander to like not allow any life gain.
That's true, yeah. Or gut shot it.
Or gut shot it.
All right.
I mean, he can make this a 5/5, but that's not going to be good enough.
Does he have enough in the yard? I don't think he does. I see
To make it a
1,
5/5?
2, 3, 4, 5. They're counting it now. It looks like 6.
So it's not quite? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, turning it into a 5/5 isn't even good enough on this board, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would be good enough if you had like burn spell plus and your opponent attacked, and it looks like we're actually going to see the fight over the Terramander. So he's going to go to 3 and open himself up to a burn spell, and that'll do it. Yeah.
Bolt you? Wait, how do you draw a card?
He didn't. He had the force of will. He forced the Terramander, went to 3, and then that meant that the last card, one of the 2 last cards that Roland had was a bolt that got him dead.